Hello, travelers and monster catchers abound. I'm Stella Ferris, and this is a Monster Catchers Journal podcast. Welcome back to another episode. Today's episode is about a glyph called Venombrim. If you ever hear the desert go quiet, run, or be very ready. The Bleakfang Wastes aren't just dry, they're cursed. Luna said the sand there doesn't move with the wind. It listens to it. Zena's glyph Ignazura wouldn't even step past the obsidian markers, so I went alone. Or maybe, felt him watching. I was crouched near a dried-up river, studying some claw marks when I heard a scritch behind me. I turned. Nothing. Then beside me, still nothing. I spun in a full circle, but all I saw was sand until it moved. A ripple in the earth like something slithering beneath it. And then he struck, half serpent, half scorpion, all furry. A massive body, covered in obsidian-like scales, the upper half like a cobra, with a wide-fanged hood flaring as he hissed. The lower half scuttled with armored legs, and from his spine rose a long, curved scorpion tail, dripping with glowing green venom. His eyes were twin pits, or lime fire, and his forked tongue split the wind in eerie silence. Venombrim wasn't forged by some grand judgment or cursed fate. He simply is, born from the ancient bond between scorpion and serpent, two of the desert's most deadly hunters. Deep beneath the sands of the Bleakfang Waste, where the sun bleeds fire and shadows shift like whispers, their essences merged not by choice, not by design, but as natural force of the desert itself. Half serpent, half scorpion, he moved with the cold inevitability of nature's silent killers. His obsidian scales shimmered like cracked glass in the sun, his armored legs carrying him swiftly across the shifting dunes, and his venom drips with the primal power of survival. I barely dodged his first strike. He vanished underground instantly, like ink soaking into parchment, but his presence, I could feel it. He was stalking, studying, hunting. Venombrim was not shaped by fate or bound by judgment. He simply exists, a living force born from the ancient intertwinings of two of the desert's deadliest predators, the scorpion and the serpent. Beneath the endless dunes of the Bleakfang Waste, where the sun's heat blurs the horizon and shadows twist like whispers of forgotten secrets, their essences fuse, not by will, but by the raw, untamed power of nature itself. And Nibiruans, who kind of breeded him for that fact, and we'll tell you about that at the end. His form was a haunting blend of lethal grace and armored menace. The upper half, sleek and serpentine, moved with cold precision, each scale catching the harsh light from like fractured obsidian. His lower half was an unforgiving scorpion, legs clicking sharply over the sand, a curved tail arching high and dripping with venom that glowed an eerie green, nature's silent promise of death. The first strike came like a flash, sudden and unseen. I barely slipped aside, heart pounding as the earth beneath me rippled, swallowing him whole like a spilled ink and parchment. But even when out of sight, his presence lingered, a weight in the air, a watchful hunger. He was more than a beast. He was a hunter, a shadow stalking through the silence, watching, waiting. The desert held its breath. Around me the sand lay still, untouched by even the faintest breeze. It was as if the world itself dared not disturb the space where Venombrim moved. Every grain seemed charged with quiet menace, vibrating with the pulse of something ancient and relentless. I could feel his gaze, cold and unblinking, sliding beneath the surface. The way he melded with the earth was unnatural and an extension of the desert's will, or perhaps its wrath made flesh. But there was something else beneath the venom in the threat. A raw, untamed survival, not cruel, but necessity. I stayed low, every muscle taut, whispering to myself not to panic. The sand rippled again, a soft, sinister motion, and then he emerged towering and deadly. His hood flared wide, revealing those twin rows of sharp fangs, venom dripping like liquid poison into the thirsty sand. His tail arched over his back, glowing faintly, a reminder that the silent danger that lurked just a breath away. Venombrim circled slow and deliberate, eyes never leaving me. I sensed no hate, no anger, only unshakable certainty of a creature who had existed long before I ever set foot here. He was part of this place, born of its heat, its silence, its shadows. For a long moment we simply regarded each other, then as if deciding I was no threat, his tail lowered, not in defeat, but in weary acceptance. The desert exhaled. Venombrim vanished beneath the sand once more, but this time I knew he would watch. Always watch. I didn't reach for weapons, spells, or even a glyphid. Instead, I breathed slowly, steadying my heart, and grounding myself in the moment. Patience was my only ally. Venombrim's eyes never left me, but I held my ground. No sudden moves, no challenge, just quiet presence, like a desert like the desert itself, endless, unmoving and unyielding. Minutes stretched, feeling like hours as the sand around us held its breath. I keep messing up on the story, and I'm really sorry. May the moons of Nibiru, all three of them, shine their beautiful light down on you, along with the twin suns. Anyways, then, ever so slowly, the ripple beneath my feet began to settle. The venomous tail that had hovered like a thundercloud over my head dripped, brushing the earth softly. I whispered, barely audible, "You don't have to be alone." The venom glow dimmed. The tension in the air eased. Venombrim rose slowly and fully, scales catching the light of the twin suns and the three moons of Nibiru. But his stance was less threat and more curiosity. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, he coiled around the circle I traced in the sand, a containment woven from whisper runes and calm resolve. The glyphid pulsed once, black and green flames licking the edges, sealing the boundary. Venombrim didn't resist, not because he was caught, but because he chose to stay. In that moment I understood patience wasn't just a tactic, it was a language, a promise. And Venombrim, silent, deadly, eternal, had accepted it. After that long encounter, I needed to clear my head, and somewhere to rest where the desert's oppressive silence didn't weigh so heavy. I found refuge at an old desert restaurant, a weathered shack perched on the edge of the Bleakfang Wastes. The sign above the door was faded, but inside, the warm glow of lanterns and the hum of quiet conversation felt like a world away. I slid onto a rough-hewn stool and scanned the menu, intrigued by the strange, unfamiliar dishes. Well, not very unfamiliar, because carnivora plant is very well known. There's a whole ritual. We talked about it in an earlier episode. But there's a whole ritual for it. But anyways, grilled carnivora plant, I muttered to myself, imagining the fierce desert flora that thrived here, and a Nibiruan salad, said to be a refreshing mix of bitter desert herbs, spiced with wild fruit from the oasis. I ordered both. When the plate arrived, the carnivora plant was charred just right, its tough, leafy tendrils cracked with smoky bitterness. but beneath that, a surprising sweetness that hinted at the harsh environment it grew in. The salad was crispy, tangy, and oddly calming, a perfect contrast to the desert's relentless heat. As I ate, my thoughts drifted back to Venombrim, the silent sentinel. Now bound to the sanctuary, the desert was full of secrets, some old as time itself, but sometimes, in the quiet between the dunes, you could find unexpected moments of peace. I let the warmth of the restaurant settle over me, a small island of comfort in the endless sands. As I sat there savoring the strange flavors, the creak of the door drew my attention. A boy stepped inside, tall and lean, with short, shaggy black hair that fell just enough to shadow his forehead. His eyes were the color of the deepest ocean, dark, endless, and sharp, with a hint of mischief. Without hesitation, he slid onto the stool beside me. He leaned in close, a confident smirk tugging at his lips, and placed his hands gently beneath my chin. He tilted my face towards us, forcing me to meet those piercing eyes. "You're a Jabili of a girl," he said, voice low and cocky. I didn't bother explaining. "I'm from Nibiru. I know exactly what that means." His grin faltered just a little, surprised I wasn't impressed. "Well then," he said, eyes narrowing playfully. "Guess you're used to sweet talk." I met his gaze evenly. "I'm not really interested in learning about you at all. My heart is spoken for." He laughed, clearly amused, and maybe a little intrigued. Who may I ask, is the special guy who holds your heart?" the boy asked, a sly grin tugging at his lips. "Professor Lang from the academy," I replied without hesitation. He laughed, amused. "That blowhard? I don't think he's got a chance at stealing the attention of a beauty like you." Before I could react, he reached out and tried to drag me from the restaurant. "Hey," I protested, struggling against his grip. But just then Lang appeared in the doorway, sharp-eyed and authoritative. "What do you think you're doing, Melisse Bogar?" Lang demanded, stepping forward. The boy smirked unfazed. "Taking my new girlfriend with me." "I'm not your girlfriend," I shouted, yanking free. The tension thickened in the cramped space. The desert night pressed in around us like a held breath. Lang and Bogar stood mere feet apart, their eyes locked in a fierce battle of wills. The air between them crackled with unspoken history and raw determination. "You won't steal what's rightfully mine this time, Lang," Bogar spat, voice low and venomous. Lang's gaze didn't waver, burning with quiet fury. "She's not an object to be claimed or owned. And besides," he added firmly, "she doesn't love you." Bogar's smirk twisted, but there was a flicker of uncertainty beneath his bravado. I watched the two men, heart pounding, not just from fear, but from the weight of the clash. This wasn't just about me, it was about something far older and darker between them. "Huh!" Bogar scoffed, stepping closer. "Doesn't love me. You've always had a way of convincing people you're the better man, Lang. But deep down, you know I'm the one who can give her more than lectures and dusty books." Lang's expression hardened. "What you call giving is nothing but taking. You've never cared about anyone but yourself, Bogar. She deserves freedom, not chains disguised as charms." Bogar's grin faded to a cold sneer. "Freedom? You think running around hunting glyphs and playing hero is freedom? That life will chew her up and spit her out. And you think locking her away at your side would be better?" Lang's voice was low, but every word landed like a blow. Bogar tilted his head, eyes flickering toward me. "She could have comfort, safety, a man who knows her worth." "I do know her worth," Lang said sharply, "which is why I'd never trap her into thinking she owes me her heart." Bogar let out a bitter laugh. "Always the noble one, but nobility doesn't keep people by your side, Lang. It just makes them easier to steal." Lang's jaw tightened. "You can't steal what doesn't belong to you in the first place." Bogar's eyes darkened, the smug amusement bleeding into something sharper. "Maybe not," he said. voice dropping to near growl. But I can take what I want. Before I could move, his hand shot out, fingers curling around my wrist with bruising force. He yanked me toward him, his grip unyielding. The scrape of my stole against the floor cut through the low murmur of the restaurant. Let's go. Or let her go, Bogar, Ling said, his voice calm but edged with steel. Bogar smirked, holding me just a little tighter, as if testing how far he could push before Ling broke. Or what, Professor? You'll lecture me into submission? In a single step, Ling closed the distance between them, his gaze locked on Bogar's like two predators circling the same kill. You've got 3 seconds to release her. Bogar didn't move, his grip only tightened. 1, Lang's tone was like the crack of stone under pressure. 2! My heart pounded in my ears. Before 3 could leave Lang's lips. Bogar made the mistake of pulling me closer. That's when Lang struck. Before Bogar could even process a 3rd count, Lang's hand shot forward, lightning quick, but unnervingly precise. His fingers locked around Bogar's wrist with surgical accuracy, twisting just enough to send a jolt of pain shooting up his arm. At the same time, Lang stepped in, using his own body weight to break Bogar's balance without throwing a single wild motion. The shift was sudden, explosive in speed, yet every movement was deliberate, controlled, as if Lang had calculated it before the thought even formed in Bogar's mind. Bogar gasped and released me instinctively, stumbling back a half a step, but catching himself before he fell. His other hand twitched forward towards his side. Whether for a weapon or pride, I couldn't tell, but Lang's stance made it clear. One wrong move and Bogar wouldn't get a second chance. Touch her again, Lang said evenly, and you'll learn exactly how fast I can end this. For the first time, Bogar's smirk faltered. Bogar's hesitation didn't last long. His pride wouldn't let him walk away without proving something. With a snarl, he lunged, swinging a sharp right hook at Lang's jaw. Lang moved like water. He sidestepped the blow, his forearm snapping up to deflect, then drove his elbow hard into Bogar's ribs. The air left Bogar in a sharp grunt, but he came back fast, aiming a kick at Lang's leg. The clash became a blur, Lang's strikes crisp and exact, Bogar's wild but fueled by sheer force. Chairs scraped and toppled, a plate shattered against the floor, and startled whispers filled the restaurant. Bogar caught Lang's shoulder once, hard enough to stagger him a step, but Lang flowed right back in it, his hand locking on Bogar's collar. Before slamming him against the wall, the impact rattled the whole old wood, dust sifting from the rafters. Pinned and breathless, Bogar's smirk returned, thin but sharp. Enjoy your victory, Lang, he rasped. But the next time you're not around, she's mine. Lang's grip tightened just enough to drive the point home before releasing him. Bogar straightened his coat, shot me one last lingering glance, and pushed past the crowd, disappearing into the desert night. The restaurant seemed to exhale all at once. Lang turned to me, his voice calm. You all right? Lang's gaze softened as the last of the onlookers settled back into their meals. Yeah, I said, brushing a bit of sand from my sleeve. Sorry you had to go through that. Not at all, Lang replied, his tone carrying an edge of steel beneath the calm. I'm only sorry he tried to harm you. I met his gaze, seeing no trace of hesitation, only a quiet, unshakable certainty that if Bogar tried again, Lang would be there. The air between us held the remnants of the fight, the faint echo of Bogar's promise still ringing in the back of my mind. I caught a new glyph today. His name is, I began. Venombrim, Ling interrupted, the corners of his mouth twitching in the faintest hint of knowing smile. I blinked. How did you? Saw the containment circle flare from the ridge, he said, leaning back slightly. Black and green, like wildfire in the sand. There's only one creature in the Bleakfang Wastes that carries that kind of venom. His tone was matter of fact, but there was a glint in his eyes that told me he understood exactly what bringing Venombrim into the sanctuary meant. Ready to admit you're in love with me now? Lang asked, his voice just light enough to make it unclear whether he was teasing or testing me. Heat surged into my face so fast it was almost dizzying. I could feel the flush spreading, and if anyone had walked in right then, they might have thought I'd been boiled alive, lobster red, just perfect. I tried to look away, but Lang was watching me with that calm, steady gaze that made lying pointless. Hey, don't tease me, I complained. I crossed my arms in what I hoped was a stern gesture, though my burning cheeks probably ruined the effect. Lang's mouth curved into a faint smile, not mocking but warm. Not teasing, he said. Just wondering when you'll admit what we both already know. I scoffed, trying to focus on my drink instead of the way his voice seemed to settle into my chest. You're impossible. And yet, Lang said softly, you haven't told me to leave. I smiled despite myself, shaking my head, and that's how we spent the rest of the night, just the two of us, tucked away in that little desert restaurant, the hum of quiet conversation around us, the warm scent of grilled carnivora plant in the air, the steady presence of Lang across the table. For a while, the Bleakfang Wastes, Bogar's threat, and even Venombrim's watchful coils faded into the background. There was only the clink of glasses, the low murmur of our voices, and the kind of silence that felt safe. And that, my friends, is the episode for this week. This has been the Monster Catcher's Journal podcast, and I hope to see you next time. May Nibiru shine its beautiful light down on you. Goodbye now.